sitting here discussing. And I like that, that she, our local leadership. I was telling my uncle, I said, I'm glad that this is coming to grassroots level. In times like this, we find out who our leaders are, who the true leaders are of the people. And there's not too many of us, and we have our relatives here too. And I want to thank you guys all for being here, coming here. We have one of our other relatives coming to have prayers and share some food, and I see all these young people sitting here. I told Kola Chase, I said, these young people here, they make me question, where's our representation at? Where's our young people willing to put everything on the line to stop something that's going to affect all of our people? Not just us, Lakotas or Dakotas, but, all people, all the way down the river. So it's a serious, very serious situation, and once again I want to thank everybody for showing up, and thank everyone who prepared the food, and my uncles and my cousins and everyone here. We got a lot of relatives here, so but just want to thank everyone for being making it feel real comfortable here to be able to come and share ideas and share meals. So that's all I got. If anyone has any questions you might think of, you can ask me.
Cedric, if you guys want, I can explain where you guys are at right now and what the PUC Public Utilities Commission process is in North Dakota and South Dakota. Okay, Chase was one of the attorneys with Peter Capicella. The individual, what happens in a public utilities thing, commission case, is that they put out a public notice, and usually what happens is on our reservations we don't get those notices. We don't hear about them because they're put up in Bismarck or Rapid or Sioux Falls or wherever. We don't hear about them because they don't think about us, right? But they put it out publicly that they're going to have this Public Utilities Commission hearing, and it's going to be regarding a pipeline, Dakota Access or Keystone XL, whatever they were going to do. And when they do that, each state has a process where an individual or a nonprofit or a tribe or any kind of other group can therefore then be part of that process. Now in South Dakota, you had to fill out this form. We had to get it notarized, and then we became part of that process. In North Dakota, you just signed up for it, and then you could become part of that process. But what happens, and one of the things that we've learned with Keystone, is that we have to be watchdogs for what's going on. And we didn't really learn about that until we were talking with Bold, Nebraska, and with Cowboys and Indians Alliance, and Dakota Rural Action. And so they put out these public notices. You become an individual intervener, or you become an intervener with either the tribe becomes an intervener or whatever. Standing Rock was an intervener in the South Dakota Public Utilities Commission regarding Dakota Access. So therefore, they knew what Dakota Access was going to do up here in North Dakota. They knew about it. That's the information that I can give you. What you guys do with that is up to you. I can't tell you what you guys are going to do in your own tribe. But they did know about it. And they knew the process that they had to go through. They knew that. Where you guys are at right now with public relations and stuff, you're not going to turn the tide for North Dakota. What you are going to be able to turn the tide is for any judicial hearing that may come out of it. So what you guys probably should do is talk to your tribal attorneys and figure out, are they going to go federal with this? Because I have a very good feeling that they have a really strong federal case. Not a state case, but a federal case to stop this. And if you guys do that, you guys would be leading policy on any future pipelines that try to come through. And believe me, there will be more pipelines that try to come through. Now, Dakota Access did not need to have a presidential permit like Keystone XL. Keystone XL needed a presidential permit because they were crossing a border. And so we were lucky enough that Obama said no, kind of put the brakes to it. TransCanada is still trying to pull some stuff with it, which is what we're going to court for, the individual interveners and a few other people. Chase is awesome as far as press release and getting information out. He can help you with that. He's got contacts and connections and can do that sort of thing for you guys. I'm really glad he's here. I can help with internet stuff and whatnot. We came down because you guys are our relatives. A lot of us have relatives up here. A lot of us have friends, cousins, aunts, nieces, nephews. And we've gone through nonviolent direct action training. When you say some of us might get arrested, yeah, please bail me out. Chase, help me. But we can certainly offer that sort of thing. So we want to know what you guys want to do, where you want to go. You're probably going to have a multi-dimensional approach. So you're probably going to have legislation that you at council are going to need to process, such things as banning the owners of Dakota Access from crossing your land, banning the subsidiary companies that want to cross your land. If something should happen to a Native woman and these workers do something to her, that some kind of something is there to protect her. Because right now that Violence Against Women Act isn't going to protect her. Because she's not in a relationship with them. They could come through and steal your kids. Now, I went to Iowa, and the pipeline workers that want to work on Dakota Access were the ones that were supposed to work for Keystone XL. This was right after the president said no to KXL. They were in Iowa at a Public Utilities Commission in Iowa. These were some of the most evil, arrogant people I have ever met in my life. They were all wearing bright orange, and it was hunter season. I swear I had PTSD for a week every time I saw orange. I mean, it was awful. These guys were evil. We stand outside the building and they talk about raping women. They talk about taking little boys in just their conversations. This is the kind of stuff that happens up at the Bakken at the oil fields. Well, they're going to bring it here. They're not only going to bring it here to Standing Rock, they're also going to come through Cheyenne River on their way up there to work, which means our people are put at risk too. And since we're all Ocheti Shalgowi, we have to take care of one another. So you're going to have sex trafficking, you're going to have heroin, you're going to have increased meth, and you're going to have increased violence just from the men that come through. Not to mention saving our sacred water, saving our water. Pipelines, it's not if pipelines break, it's when pipelines break. And often they break at water sources. Yeah, they say they're going to go under 75 feet, but how often does this river move? This river moves. It's a living being. It moves. It's a spirit. It moves. That pipeline will break. And your guys' water source is right there. You guys will be right there on the front line drinking benzene and chlorine and all kinds of 7,200 and some things that have to go through it. And then it will affect over half of South Dakota's drinking water. Over half. So we came down to find out what we can do for you, because we're willing to do that. When we were starting to fight Keystone, we called on Moccasins on the Ground, which is the shirt that I'm wearing. Oeaku, Deb White Plume. They've moved on to some other projects right now, so they're not doing that kind of training. Joseph has gone out and gotten a lot of training with Indigenous Environmental Network and Ruckus. And we can definitely get in touch with those types of people to get help. But we're more than willing to do whatever we can. And I will put myself on the line. You guys have all seen the pictures of us standing in front of trucks. You guys have all seen us do what we needed to do. We're willing to do it. So that's why we came down.
To add to what she had to say, my name is Joseph Whiteeyes. I live down in Maple Butte, and I do a lot of work with Joye Braun. You know, she's just an amazing woman. She started me out, you know, with our buffalo. We had a problem with our buffalo down on the reservation, and so that's how I got involved. You know, with a lot of activism trainings, and you know, just being out there on the front lines for your people. And right now, I'm a part of a youth movement. We're called the One Mind Youth Movement. There's our banner right there. And a lot of people say the youth are the future, you know, but nobody acts like it because they do not take their grandchildren with them to these different places. They do not have their children take their children to these places. Everywhere I go, I was taught by Robin LeBeau, one of our ex-tribal council members, to take a youth with you, because everywhere you go, they're going to pick up some knowledge from what you have to offer. So everywhere I go, I take youth. I don't go by myself anymore. I don't go with just Joye. Last night, we planned on coming up here just like that. First, it was just going to be me, Morgan, and Joye coming. I was like, no, let's take youth. So we went to the chairman, asked for some funding. We brought these guys up here. We were going to bring more, but, you know, they're in school and everything. I guess one of the questions I want to ask you is, how far are you willing to go to stop this pipeline? How far are you willing to go to stop this pipeline? Are you ready to lay your life down? Are you ready to go to jail? Are you ready to get in a lot of trouble? Because that's what's going to happen. We stopped trucks that were carrying this pipeline cargo for the Bakken oil cargo down on Cheyenne River. We were arrested. We had resolutions against it by our own tribal council saying to stop and turn around any oil cargo crossing through our boundaries. And so I said, hey, you know, we have this resolution. Why aren't the police enforcing it? So I, myself, Joye, and a few others, my sister Wani, we put our lives on the line because that's how serious we were. You know, we thought about the future. Mini Wichoni, water is life. Water is life. You're born in it when you're in your mother's womb. You're released. You drink it to survive. Plants have to have it to survive, you know. And once it gets in our water, then what? You know, who are we as a people when our water is gone? What are our ceremonies when our water is gone? How are we going to have the Sundance? How are we going to have Inikaga? Everything we do involves water. And so when you're in this fight, remember, how far are you willing to go? How far? And I can't stress it enough, is involve your youth, because your youth are your future. Sitting in this room, what I see a lot of people much older than me. I'm only 20 years old, but if you get your youth in there, they can move quicker. They're quieter. You know, they think about different obstacles all the time because their mind isn't set on one thing. They're very open-minded. Very open-minded. So, like Joye said, we're here to offer our help. We have nonviolent direct action training, and I don't know if any of you guys know what that is, but nonviolent direct actions means no means of violence when you're stopping these kinds of things. I'm going to tell you, there's going to be police officers out there that are going to hurt you. They're going to press your pressure points when you're stopping these trucks. You know, they're going to yell at you. They're going to mentally try to break you down so you break away from whatever you're holding on to. And nonviolent direct action is what you need to do, because if you touch that officer, you can go to prison. You can go to jail. So this is a serious thing. You guys need to involve the youth. You need to involve everybody, and we're here to help you. The One Mind Youth Movement as well. We're ready to help you. We're starting to work in our schools within our reservation down there on Cheyenne River. And we're going to not only, help the youth within their school change whatever, but we're going to give them the tools so that they can go on farther than the One Mind Youth Movement. Because change starts with ourselves, and that's what we believe. If you can't change yourself, you can't change the world. I'm only 20 years old, and everyone else we brought here is under 20. Morgan's 21. And we are the youth, and we are the future, and we know that. So keep that in the back of your mind. How far are you willing to go? That's all I have to say for now.
We encourage Standing Rock youth to stand up. Come to these meetings. Come to trainings. Come and help us. You're the future. And I know it was being recorded right now. But stand up. You guys stand on Facebook. Come out. Come out in person. I challenge you guys to do that.
I'm live feeding to YouTube right now.
Ja, you chate oste na pechius, pero apeti que na mitake ki bakwa oste oya ke ta yo ya hibi kawo pila tsaka chechi chapalo. Ale la mata ha unkpa kawo oyate e mata. Na le dakwele omnichi wi ha ke he miniwi chonyo kan. Ja he nala la kore pista. As custom, when we address the people, we are to honor ourselves and to honor you by standing and addressing ourselves and who we are as a people. And I'm from the Hunkpa Oyate. We're discussing something that is of great importance. The most important part of our being is the water and the water of life. We currently, throughout the Oceti Shakoin, we live in blissful ignorance. We don't know what's going on. Through our IRA governments, a lot of that is being kept from us, whether it's on purpose or whether it's not communicated. We have 17 council people on Standing Rock. We have one that has an interest in what we're planning and what we are going to do. You know, there was an ad on KLND radio. I don't have to worry about the Lakota language because my cousin knows how to speak. You know, and that's the attitude that a lot of our people have now, is that I don't have to do this because my cousin's going to do it, or my brother or my sister's going to do it. Oh, I'm going to depend on Chase. He's going to do it all for me. So that's the kind of attitude that we currently carry with us throughout Oceti Shakoin. So we have the problems that we have. We cannot be doing that to each other. We all have to step forward and do this. For your information, good news today. KLND Radio has granted its funding today. Now we're just going to wait for the money to come in. And we're going to start where we were going. We're going to continue. Kanshi Tim and I had a radio show going on Tuesday evenings. And we connected with Keeley. We connected with KOYA out of Rosebud. 3 stations east of the river, 2 in Yankton and 1 in Santee. And then KABU, our relatives up north of Spirit Lake. We streamed it on the internet. We got a lot of good responses from it. Because of the information my Kanshi carries. Probably the last one to carry that. He's educating us on what he has gained in the past 30 years. It's a very interesting topic that he carries with him. Information. What was here before the Chanupa? He asked me that question. Blank. I don't know. I asked a lot of the young people down that have altars that run sun dances down in Pine Ridge. I asked them that question. What was here before the Chanupa? Blank, just like me. But there was something here before the Chanupa came. And the answer lies there. The answer lies here. Kanshi tells a great creation story about before the Chanupa. I was on tribal council from 1984 to 1991. Really a pivotal time because, we didn't have internet like we have now. We don't have the things of technology that it has now, but we put a stop to a garrison diversion. When they're going to divert the water from the Garrison Dam north of us out towards the east, this tribal council stepped forward and asked other tribal tribes to come along with us. 3 affiliated, they came. Downriver, nobody joined us. But this is an issue that starts with the 3 affiliated tribes. They approved of a pipeline going underneath Lake Sakakawea. That's already been approved by the 3 affiliated tribes. I've read that numerous times. But I haven't read anything that opposes that from Standing Rock, Cheyenne River, Lower Brule, Fort Thompson, down the river we go. I haven't heard any opposition to it publicly. And that bothers me, that there is no opposition, that we live in a blissful ignorance. We don't know what's going on. So I wanted to share that much with all of us, to keep ourselves in contact. I'm really thankful, and I can never tell him, thank him enough, Charles, for coming to be a part of these things. Because he's that link that we have. I visited with a couple of council people today, and they helped us develop Elders Preservation Council, which 3 of us are here, of the 6. And I said, how are we going to work together? How is the tribal council and my Tashi, who's just been hired as the director of the Tribal Historic Preservation Office, we know as THIPO, his office and us, how are we going to work together to ensure that these things don't happen in the future? But most of all, how do we work together to stop what is happening? Kanshi Cedric starts with prayer. That's why we're here. Not everybody knows the answer. Not everybody has all the answers to anything. We're just men. We have to realize that. Why were our people, why were they so united in efforts in the past? It's because they didn't have egos. I'm the man. I'm the savior. They didn't have that kind of thinking. They worked together. They did things together. And they shared things together. Some of them died together. That's how united our people used to be. But guess what? It's going in that direction again. It's happening. It's happening again. So we have to put those egos away, and we have to think about the future generations. One of the elders once told me, long ago, in order to be a leader of the people, of the 7 sacred rites, a leader must have had done 4 of them. In order to even be considered to be a leader of his people, a shirt wearer. So whenever you're out on the Hamblecha, or you're Wiwang Wach, whenever you do those things, you know that the most important thing is water. You understand that. So, that's what we're talking about today. So I'm really thankful that you're here from Cheyenne River. I see Joseph on Facebook now. I get to see him. It's good to know you, a young man. And these are some of the things that, they tie us together, but it's always better to be in person, to know each other. Some of the kids are probably looking, hey, that's that guy on the radio, that nutcase on the radio in the mornings. But, there's a reason for that. That's to wake everybody up. Put a smile on your face, get your day going, and try to encourage you to have a good day. But, yeah, so the radio station, hopefully will be up before the end of the month or sooner, because we have our money. But I want to ask my cousin Tim to share a little bit of what he has. And I visited with a couple of the council people. One was listening, had one big ear on over here on the other side, Corey. But Corey Mack. Big ear, he was listening to everything that we were talking about. But they're very interested in what he has. And for you younger people, there's March 18, 19, 20, Omaniche. We had a heck of a time. Is it going to be a meeting? Is it going to be a conference? What is it going to be? Simply, a Lakota, Omaniche. We're going to gather. Instead of, meeting, conference, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to ask him to share a little bit so that, for us, that groundwork that's laid here, we have a lot of important sites. We have a part of that Omnicha that says, on earth as it is in heaven. Where does that quote come from? On earth as it is in heaven. Where did you hear that before? On earth as it is in heaven. Yeah, the Bible, the Lord's Prayer, or the Our Father. But guess what? Before the Europeans crossed that ocean, we knew that already. We already knew these things. And now we're relearning. We're finding out that we had these things way before the Europeans came. So we respect them. We don't disrespect them like we were disrespected. But we respect them. Because some people have a strong belief in those European customs. That doesn't make them any less than we are. We respect them. And that respect runs both ways. I actually can't walk right there. Talk a little bit too long. He's got his watch on, but timing me again. We'll be like Chechi Chapel. Gosh. Chair. A little bit. I really say thank you to you guys for coming. Sometimes you have to help them get up, but.
Nasu wanjina nika oyate wanji. They talked about that. One heart, one mind, your people are one. That was a pledge that the Red Hand Society made every time they were pushed into protecting the people. And it started, we wonder, this month, that little Wahochuk. They had to believe in this, which you all have. That's what brought you here to express your concerns and to show the strength of your spirit. And I appreciate that. You don't see too many young kids anymore doing that. And I'm not just trying to say something that's belittling even though you're young, this is what counts. This is what's strong. So when I say little kids, I'm talking about when you were this small. You were already picked for this. That's why you're sitting here, and I appreciate that. Your heart is everything. What comes out of there is your aura of how you feel things. So you feel a lot of different things off of people. It's because we all have a limit. They say the tips of our fingers are limit of our knowledge. But what we call the nari, that's this. So the old men talked about when you're one, you can lead. When Kanshi talks about those 4 of the 7, you had to display that. But you never talked about it. You allowed somebody else to talk about it. For them to witness exactly how you displayed that oneness. So it's really hard. We're still working on it, all of us today, even myself, all my relatives here. We try to work on that oneness. Because when you do that, then you can start picking those types of things that are good for your people. Nasu Wajina. If you could put those together and you start displaying it, not in a way that's bragging display, but more of modesty, of having reserve, that you respect what your Nahi is all about, then your people become one. We don't have older people talk like this anymore. There's a few of us that really, well, there's a lot of few. We say few, but there's many people on these reservations, all of these reservations that have that yet. The problem with that is they don't want to get up and talk about it. Because we were told at one time to be reserved. Some of us, we took that too far. And we stood there when we were this small. And we were given a responsibility. Go to that one, they're going to teach you this. Go to that one, they're going to teach you this. Go to this one over here. Same with the girls. But what's really interesting tonight is my relatives. It was the lady that talked from here. It was because of this flip that we had experienced back in 1890 when they killed that grandpa. It was a strike on the ground. 2 things happened when they killed him. The lightning came down in the middle of winter. 15, 20 below zero, 18 below zero. Lightning came and struck the ground. Created a crack. The old people talked about that. And it thundered. When they took his life, when he left, it displayed 2 things that marked the beginning of an era that we had to flip. That's what we're talking about tonight. We want to change for the good things. So there's this meeting coming up in March here. It's 18th, 19th, and 20th. I would encourage you to come, Joye, to bring these young people here, to encourage our young people that they have a right to stand up. A lot of them feel like they don't need to, and a lot of them feel like they don't have a need because nobody wants them to. But yet they don't come in here and stand in here and listen. You're here and took it upon yourself this evening to come here, and I really appreciate that. I can't say it enough. You make my heart feel really good because it started here. Whoever directed you in your lifetime, you're young yet, but it started here. For the women, and it flipped in 1890, the men, it took them 20 years to decide on what they needed to do when they killed our grandpa. In 20 years, they also prayed to come off that hill and bring it like we're going to see tonight. They took a power of that hill. What was there? In that little round ring that we knew about prior to when the Chanupa came. But that song we came, we already had that. Our grandpas brought that protocol out of there. So when they did that, they asked for two things. One, to allow them to fast until they could bring the power of that hill and bring it into Four Corners. And the reason why they did that was because what they said in 1868, and then there was even before that, 1851 treaty. And even before that, when they first seen this chair, the four legs. She's talking about something that's really honorable, to stand up and talk. But when they seen those treaty people, those commissioners sitting there, right away, the old men were sitting there, and they start talking about, it's not going to be true. The truth is going to come out in four different ways because they're not standing up on the legs to honor what's up there and to honor what's down here. So in 1890, when they had to talk about this, they said, we're going to have to flip this. They took our whole cultural knowledge, our oral knowledge, and they turned it upside down. It took them 20 years to do that. The second thing that they asked for was the women to stand up and step forward. That's what we're in today. It was prophesied that we're going to one day flip it back. So in those 20 years, for them to bring the power of that ring, that Wahocho God, that everybody goes up to, those special people that have that dream, that could take that chanupa and take it up there and cry for the people because they want to be one. So that way they can come back and spread that oneness. Ni o ta oyate wanji. To make the people one. So when they did that, and they flipped it, they took the power of that hill, and they brought it here. Brought it inside these. What's unique about an individual that would come here and set up his altar? What have you noticed? What's unique about it? The cardinal directions and the dirt. The stick that has the ties. They brought the color of that hill and they brought it into here. Tonight we're going to see that. And we're going to experience what our grandpas did. They cried. Cried so hard because we're now denied to go off this reservation to all these special places that this Dakota Access, Keystone XL, the original Keystone, is going to destroy. These are very special places of prayer. Places where these little tiny rings, this big, for little children to step out. The little girls, and the reason that the women had to step forward, there was a ranking order. That little girl was marked. And the grandmas would pick them up. And they'd take them. You got to go to this one. You got to go to this one. You got to go to this one. Today we see them at Wachipis with the breastplate. Not anybody could wear a breastplate a long time ago. If you wore a breastplate as a kunshi, unchi, she could stand there and hold a man's staff. Whether it was the hook staff or the straight lance. Ikancha, naja. She could hold that. She was beyond childbearing. She was been able to stand up and talk when they had men gathering to talk about these types of things. So when they flipped that knowledge, everything went to darkness. When they did ceremonies up on these hills, it was never dark. When Patay Sangwi brought that chanupa and strengthened what we had, brought the 7 gifts to us. She set order in certain ways that we were supposed to learn and keep the knowledge. That's what the men took underground. They went and flipped it. Because of that crack that happened right down here on the ground. When that occurred, within those 20 years, they prayed that this knowledge wouldn't disappear. So they had to hide it. They took it, they flipped it underneath. So that little circle there where this little girl stepped out of, they immediately marked her. Little Christmas tree, piece of leather that looked like a half moon. It was skinny, it was tied right here. By whether it was bone or hide, it was tied right out here, right above her heart. And it widened out and it turned into a Christmas tree. And then upside down triangle, the tailbone. The backbone of the society of that Tioshpai, that Tiwahe, Oshpai, all of those that had been given to us in an orderly fashion was now going to go underground. As we know today, it was flipped. So that little girl, when she stepped from there, they started to give her all this knowledge, and it came from the grandpas. The grandmas had their influence also on them, but they had to learn every flag, every feather on a bonnet of a man, particularly in that Tioshpai. They had to know his song. They had to know the oral knowledge. But what the grandmas carried, the ones with the breastplate, was the oral history. So there's 2 types of what we call history and knowledge that we now had to decide on what are we going to do with it. So that little girl, when she stepped into her second name, they gave her the delenium shells. So you see these little pretty girls with delenium shells on her. They're marked knowledge keepers, knowledge carriers. And we don't do that. We lost it when we got on the reservation, put us on the reservation. I had a grandmother that was that. That's why I'm telling you this. I'm just sharing you part of my grandmother's story. She was that little backbone of the Tioshpai. She stepped into her second name. She got the delenium shells. When she became a young woman that can bear children, she got to elk teeth. So now anybody could have wore those insignia, if that's the right word. Probably doing injustice to what they're what they called it. But I'm telling you that was a mark of knowledge, and it included spiritual knowledge. So my grandmother, when she was 6 years old, she knew 5 languages. They always had those young girls be the interpreters and they put them with families that if a man came married into that Tiwahe, immediately that little girl that was marked, she had to learn the language. Always a girl interpreted, especially when in those times of need and seriousness. They brought those little girls in to listen. So they carried that. That was the continuity of our oral knowledge and history. When they got of age where they could hang on and stand there with that staff, or a holder of the chanupa, they got to be able to put the bone, what they call the breastplate. So even the women, they had the breastplate society. It was a marking of 4 stages of life of a woman. So when that mark hit in 1890, the men said, you ladies or you grandmas, you kushis, you're going to have to step forward and help us out. In the meantime, we're going to bring the power of that hill and bring it back here because we can't go up to that hill anymore. In that process, the grandmas stepped forward, and you see today, guess what's documented? Our oral history. And there's a breakdown of all those keepers of all of that history. We never talked about or recorded or even wrote down our oral knowledge. But they told us, one of these days, whatever generation where it's going to be at, it's going to be a strike. The second strike. Actually, it's the third strike. The first strike is when Patesami stepped out of those 4 stars that we call Kate Dopa. She came and brought the Chanu. So the third one is coming. Also, that came with that third knowledge was the animals turning white. The Dakotas up here also talked about the children, this young. When they start to get white hair, when they're going to be shown as an elder, that's when we're on the verge of we're going to lose everything. That's what's scary. And how that's going to happen is first the animals are going to turn white. We're into that now. A lot of that we see is white buffalo. This is Dakota. I'm talking about Dakota oral history and oral knowledge. There's different interpretations of what I just told you, but there's older people around this whole area can tell you almost the same thing. Maybe a little different. But one thing about that was going to happen was they said the men are going to have to stand back up and take their rightful place. They're going to have to ask the ladies to step next to the men. Not behind them, but beside them. We're going to have to create that balance back when we flip it again. So March of 2012, we went to Canada. We talked about this. Arvo Looking Horse and myself, we both got invited up there. So what's happening here and what they're saying now is these young adults have to come. It's going to have to start. You're a reflection of that. What you're sitting here today and why you came and walked through those doors is a reflection of what the grandpas and grandmas talked about. You're opening that door for what they prophesied said was going to happen and for what's supposed to happen. You're encouraging younger people now. Just because of your presence here, there's probably going to be young people they're going to hear about tonight. They're going to hear that some people that are very important in this walk of life of understanding that walk through those doors. And some of them were 20 or younger. That's going to mean a lot. I don't think you realize how much impact you're going to have after you go home. But that's what's important about this tonight. Otherwise, this whole house should be all filled with all these young people. Because we're now going to live those prophecies. We are already into some of them already. In March, I encourage you to come here because on Saturday evening, we're going to talk again about this Dakota Access Pipeline. That Friday night, we're going to talk about, and I'm going to show display some sacred sites that we recorded, that what's going to be impacted. And a lot of them throughout this whole thing of the Keystone, the first one, to Keystone XL, all the tribes are saying they're going to destroy sacred sites. Okay. But we haven't shown what they're just going to destroy. Some of us have those recorded. And finally, I'll say this route. It's true what you're saying. We're going to have to try to push for it to go federal. About all we have left. And I noticed when I was looking at the EA, there's two EAs. There's one from the Corps of Engineers. There's one from U.S. Fish and Wildlife. But when I looked on the corridor, right here, there's a little stretch here by kind of northwest of Fort Rice here, halfway to Bismarck, that has some little wetlands. Right smack in the middle of this corridor, and it cuts right through it. But what was interesting about it was, as soon as it crosses the river right on the side here, from about, I would say, 4 miles or 5 miles going on that corridor directly all the way into Iowa, it's all federal. All wetlands all the way down. And I think there's a legal step that probably we're going to have to talk about, what this district's going to have to talk about, and what this reservation and all the other reservations is. You got to turn it federal. If you don't turn it federal, you got to try to attack something on the common laws part of it. Tonight, we're going to take the other step of doing the natural law, addressing what we want to do with the hill. We're going to go to a ceremony. But I'll end with this. The youth are supposed to take us back up on that special place. That was prophesied. A man that was 105 years old, a Dakota, old man, got up and said, that's right. We have that in our teachings here, up in here, in grandmother's land. That the youth are going to turn us back. They're going to bring us back. They're going to flip it around again. And they're going to force the men to step up, to stand up. You two gentlemen are probably a reflection. You three gentlemen here are a reflection of those grandpas that say, wherever that generational mark stops, you're it. Basically, that's what it comes to. My generational stand on this, I'm it. All of you. Where you're at in life, we're it. It's almost like the wheel was turning counterclockwise. All of a sudden, it's now stopped. Now we turn it back clockwise. Everything comes back again. Nika oyate when that's what we will be describing. So I only told you that because in our family we had the Red Hand Society in our family. And I can only go that far. But if you come to that meeting in March, you will get yourselves, I guess, filled with a lot of different types of topics. And we're going to talk about this knowledge that needs to come back up. This action and the Keystone XL action, what you have done and displayed, it ripple effect this whole Great Plains. We were all watching you guys. Now we're it. And it's really significant that you walk through that door with these young people. To bring that energy back. The grandmas and grandpas taught that. One day that youth is going to do that. So we're in it. We're going to do it. And we're going to go walk back to that hill and take them back to these sites that are very important to us and reactivate it, because we're starting to do that now. They speak Lakota or Dakota at these sites. So you come March to this meeting. We're going to show you on 3 different sets of that agenda what we found so far in Great Plains. And what's really significant, there's 4 marks starting from Canada. We found the second one. But the grandpa said there's 4 marks of Ocheti Shakowin. 2 buffaloes. A male upside down with a female. In between the female's horns is 7 little buffalo effigies. And that effigy is about from here to the end of that wall. That's how big it is. And we're going to show that. That there's, our grandpas laid these marks. The next one is at the end of Black Hills. The last one's supposed to be at the end of our traditional, what we call our homeland. Where the buffalo roam, that's Ocheti Shakowin. But we found one, but it got destroyed by a pipeline. So we don't show these and talk about these openly, but now we're to the point where we either talk about them or we're going to lose all of them. And if we don't talk about them, guess who we're going to lose? All these special older people that have that knowledge. And they're going to leave us. And they're going to take all that knowledge to the grave. So we got to produce something and give it back. And it's really good that you're sitting there listening, because there needs to be more younger people that have the courage to come into that door and sit down and listen to some beautiful cultural knowledge of our people, because we still have it yet. So I appreciate it. You peaked enough. We'll be that talking to you.
Particularly, Chanteostein of it used up a lot. Akaska Machi na Washicha Jago. Unkpapo ate Emacha. And how humbling it is to know that amongst us are people willing to take us. Because for the past year or so, we've been meeting with Tashi Tim here, and he's been talking to us about these sacred sites, sharing his decades of experience with us. 2 years ago in Cheyenne River, they had a National Bison Day. And my family and I went, my wife, my children, some of our grandchildren, went down there to partake in that. And Tashi was asked to do a talk about the woksape that he has. And up on the screen, he put up that sacred site that he just explained to you, Chetty Shakoni site. And he explained it to us. He told us where it was at. He told us what it represented. Pointed out the different features. And then he looked at us and said, the next day, that Washichu man wiped it clean. He destroyed it. And it was that point when he said that it almost hurt to hear that. And I'm almost physically hurt to hear that. Somebody had a total disregard for who we are and who our ancestors were, that they destroyed it. I got curious, because I'd never heard anyone talk like that about these sites, like Tanashi talks about. And as they start forming this Elder Preservation Council, I start going, but here on Standing Rock, twice now they've had these meetings here. And 2 years ago I went, Ochechi Shakoi meeting. And the reason why I went was I was concerned about oil. And what concerned me was that our IRA government, if not in people, have this ability to hurt us and for